Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you've been following along in the month of December, we've been celebrating big cats. So talking to explorers and conservationists all over the world to learn about their ecology, the threats they're facing, and of course, the important work that's being done to protect them as well as their habitats. So carrying on today, really excited for today's hangout. We are joining the Virginia Zoo. We're going to be hanging out with Jennifer today, who's a keeper of animals in the African exhibits. She works with the cheetahs and the lions as well. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the cheetah today, some of its ecology, and maybe some of the conservation work that the zoo does before we turn things over to you guys for some Q&A. So Jennifer, it's so great to have you joining us today, and it's so great to see your friend sitting in the sun and joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm super excited to share with you. My name's Jennifer, and I'm the lead keeper here in the Africa department at the Virginia Zoo. I have two of my friends behind me here today. This guy on the rock here is Chester, and his brother is out here milling around as well, and his name is Rico.
All right, excellent. Well, Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about, maybe start with how Chester and Rico came to be at the zoo in the first place.
Yeah, so we have, like I said, the two cheetah here, Chester and Rico. They are brothers. These guys are about 5 years old, and they came from another zoo that does a great breeding program here in Virginia. These guys have been great ambassadors for their species. Even though they're not a breeding group, like I said, they're brothers. They are very active out here on exhibit. We have lots of visitors here come to the zoo and see them all the time, so they get to see them up close and answer lots of questions. You might hear them making some vocalizations here in the background. They'll make some noises. These guys being big cats, they're very talkative, and so we will hear them sometimes talking. There he's laying down. You can see him basking in the sun back behind me.
All right. What's the temperature there today? They must not mind the cold too much.
No, they really don't mind the cold at all, actually. So their ranges in Africa really vary. So they're mostly kind of in southern and eastern Africa. There's technically 5 species of cheetah, so these are actually one of the species. And these guys mostly are in the southern eastern parts of Africa, but even there in Africa, it gets chilly as well. So these guys are pretty good with the temperatures. It's about 40 degrees here today, but it's sunny out, so it's nice in the sun. And these guys will be out pretty much all the way down to freezing. We a lot of times will let them choose if they want to go outside or stay inside. And so sometimes we'll leave it open so they can go inside to a heated area if they want to.
Great. Jennifer, can we get maybe a little ecology snapshot of the cheetah?
Yeah, of course. So these guys, that's why it's so important to have cheetah in a captive situation. They're huge ambassadors for their species. And there's only about 7,000 cheetah left, which is not a lot. These guys are technically considered vulnerable, but their populations are decreasing. And so we don't want them to go to the endangered side. So these guys in the wild, their biggest threats are habitat destruction. That's their biggest thing. So these guys being predators, right? They're the hunters out there on the savannas. They need prey to eat. They need food to eat. And so that is a big threat to these guys. So they mostly eat smaller mammals. So these guys are hunters. Like I said, they're predators. So they will eat things called prey. So smaller animals like rabbits, they eat a lot of gazelles, things that are out on the savannah. Usually you'll see cheetahs out on the savannas. Sometimes you'll see them in more forested type places, but for the most part, these guys are out in the open savannas. So you probably know one big thing about cheetahs that a lot of people know is that they're very fast. So these guys can run up to about 70 miles per hour, very quick. They start out and can get to that speed in about 3 seconds, which is very, very fast, much faster than a person can run. And these guys will reach that maximum speed and catch their prey. And then they'll actually have to sit back and take a little rest after they do that big sprint. So they're made for that fast sprint to catch that, but then they actually have to sleep a little bit. So they only hold that speed for a very short amount of time. Even though they're the fastest land mammal, they're definitely not marathon runners. So they do it really quickly and then lay back and take a rest. So these guys are actually active much more than a lot of other types of big cats. The lions, for example, will sleep about 20 hours a day, and they'll hunt and sleep, and that's pretty much it. Where these guys they hunt during the day more, and so they're much more active kind of in general. And here in a zoo setting, we see the same behavior. So we see the lions sleep a lot. We see that the cheetahs much more active as well. Another cool thing about cheetah that goes along with them hunting is their feet. So cheetahs, even though we call them big cats, they have one very different thing compared to all the other cat species, is that they do not have retractable claws. So if you think of your cats at home, same thing as a lion or a tiger, their claws actually can retract back into their paws. These guys cannot do that. So their claws stay out all the time. So they cannot retract them back. Very much like your dog at home. If you guys have dogs at home, their claws look almost identical to a cheetah's. Their teeth are very much like dogs as well, more than they are a lot of cat species, which is pretty cool. And so these guys have those adaptations to be able to do the things that they need to do to survive in the wild, such as hunt. So they're built very aerodynamic, they're very slim and slender and have those big, long, strong legs to be able to run really fast for a short amount of time. And they also have, you can kind of see Chester's big, long tail over there. They have that big, long tail, and it kind of works as a rudder. So as they're running and hunting, they can move that tail just slightly in order to move that whole body as well.
All right. And Jennifer, a question about the Virginia Zoo. Is it involved in any conservation work with cheetahs or other big cats?
Yeah, we do a lot of big cat conservation, but with cheetahs in particular, we work with a foundation called Center for Cheetah Foundation, and also Action for Cheetah Foundation. So there's two different organizations. They do research in the field as well as research in captivity to kind of correlate how we can help cheetahs best in a captive situation as well as how we can help them in the wild. So they're doing all sorts of things from conservation work in the field to education and outreach, getting the word out there that cheetahs need our help and how we can help them. So a simple little thing just as recycling is a huge thing that can help the cheetahs, not only here in the United States, all over the world, but also in their environments as well.
All right. I'm just watching over your other shoulder. It looks like Rico's decided to sit on the other side to kind of check things out and see what's happening. Perfect. Your day, what's a typical day like? What are your responsibilities when you do work with the cheetahs?
Yeah, so my day consists of a variety of things. So I take care of not only the cheetahs and the lions, but I also take care of rhinos, giraffes, zebra, all kinds of stuff. And so one of the biggest things that we do as zookeepers is we get to know our animals. So it's very important to get to know them, know their behavior, what they're eating, if anybody is acting off, that sort of thing. So we also do a lot of maintaining of exhibits, cleaning up after them. We do a lot of cleaning, feeding everybody. But I think one of the most important aspects of being a zookeeper that a lot of people don't know about is that we know our animals and we have a relationship with them. So Chester and Rico both have a bunch of trained behaviors that they can do. Just like you would train your dog at home to sit or allow you to brush him or trim his toenails. Kind of the same thing with our animals in captivity. It's just a different setting. So Chester and Rico are both trained to sit, lay down, open their mouth so we can inspect their mouths and their teeth. They're also trained for injection. So if we need to give them a vaccine, we can do that with them in a safe manner that it's not stressful for the animal and it's not stressful for us. So we spend a lot of day with our animals. We spend a lot of our day out talking to the public as well. We love interacting with the public. I mean, that's why we're here, right? Is to get the public to be aware of all sorts of things, not just about our animals here, but our animals in the wild as well. You know, these guys are very important ambassadors for their species, just like the cheetah that we have here are huge ambassadors for their species in the wild. So we love getting that out there to guests as well.
I think it's time we meet some of our classrooms and we'll take some questions from them. Just a quick reminder to anybody who is viewing online, any classrooms, let us know where you're watching from and send us in a question, and we'll definitely try to work in as many as we can. But for now, let's go to, let's start with Mrs. Gross Haggerty's class. They're second graders joining us in Benicia, California. Let me turn their microphone on. How are we doing, grade twos?
Zoe, introduce yourself. Say, hi, I'm Zoe.
Hi, I'm Zoe. My question is, how did you get your job?
How did I get my job? That's a great question, Zoe. Thank you so much for joining today. So I got my job. I was an animal lover growing up. Ever since I was a little kid, I always loved animals. And I went to college and got a degree in biology. And then after that, I got an internship at a zoo, which basically means I worked at a zoo, but I just didn't get paid. Got lots of experience and worked my way in, and then became a zookeeper. I worked at 3 different zoos with all different types of animals, and I've been a zookeeper now for almost 15 years.
All right, so I want to give a quick shout out to some classrooms who are tuning in online and sent in messages. Hey to Mr. Cameron's class. They're also in Thunder Bay, and they're saying hi to Mr. Levine's class as well, who's joining us from Thunder Bay as well. And then hey to Mrs. Beckett's class. They're joining us from Paris, Ontario. Let's see. Let's go now to Mrs. Thiessen's class. There's some grade 3 students joining us in Surrey, British Columbia. Let me turn their microphone on. How are we doing, British Columbia?
How are we doing?
All right, who's got the question?
Hi, my name is Gerline. Are cheetahs the fastest animal?
Are they the fastest animal? Yes, they are. So they are the fastest animal. There's nothing faster than a cheetah on land, and these guys are way faster than us. So even the fastest human, these guys are about 3 times faster than the fastest human, who's like in the Olympics, running very, very, very fast. Cheetahs even are 3 times faster than them. So they are very, very fast, and they can run up to about 70 miles per hour.
All right, and I'm glad you added that little piece about fastest on land, because there are some that are faster, but in other areas.
Yes, yes. There are animals in the ocean that are bigger and faster, for sure.
All right, awesome question. Let's take one from online. So this is from Mrs. Beckett's group, and they're wondering, can you train the big cats to use a litter box?
Oh, can we train them to use a litter box? I wish that we could train them to use a litter box. Unfortunately, no, we can't, but they only go to the bathroom a few times a day, and it's very small. It's really in one spot, but they do urinate like a cat. So if you've ever seen a cat urinate, they spray, and they're spraying that to mark their territory. So these cheetahs do spray, and you'll see them marking their exhibit and areas around. So they do spray urine. Yep.
All right. Let's take a trip over to another classroom now. Let's go to grade 4s in Burlington, Ontario, with Mrs. Matthews. Let me turn their microphone on. There it is. How are we doing, grade 4s?
Okay, go ahead, Jacob.
Are jaguars good climbers?
Are jaguars good climbers? Jaguars are good climbers. And cheetahs are actually not known for their climbing in general. So they usually hunt and will stay on the ground and eat their prey on the ground. However, we do see cheetahs climb trees. And if you can kind of see the trees behind me, sometimes Chester and Rico will actually climb up into that tree so they can get a better viewpoint of the zoo. So we will see them climb up in the trees, even though cheetahs in general are not known for their climbing.
All right, very cool. So boys and girls, if you want to check out something pretty neat with tree climbing lions in Uganda, we just hosted a big cat scientist a couple days ago named Vincent, and he studies the lions in Uganda that climb in the trees. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a quick trip to Mr. Levine's class in grade 4s in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Let's get their microphone on. How are we doing, grade 4s?
Hello. Hello. My question is, how do male lions get female lions to fall in love with them?
That's very cute. So male lions get females lions to fall in love with them because they have big, beautiful manes. So they have very big and prestigious looking. And male lions, or lions in general, versus cheetah are very different. So lions live in what we call a pride. So a whole bunch of lions will live together. You'll have one male lion and a bunch of females living together. Very different than cheetahs. These guys usually are what we call solitary, which means that they live by themselves. Once in a while, young cheetahs will come together and kind of hunt together when they're younger to kind of learn from each other. But once they grow up, these guys are actually solitary, so they live completely by themselves. In a captive situation like we have here in the zoo, these guys are brothers, and there's no females around for them to compete over. And so these guys can live happily together since they've been together since they were born. That's a great question.
All right, let's snag another question from the online community. So we have Mrs. Gary's second graders joining us from Woodbury, Minnesota, and they're wondering, what's your favorite animal to work with?
What's my favorite animal to work with? That is a really hard question. It probably depends on the day. Cheetahs are one of my favorites, though. I love these guys. I love working with them. They have such unique personalities. They're very different from one another. They learn differently. They enjoy different things just like we do, right? We all learn a little bit different. These guys are the same way. So Chester over here on this rock, he's a very fast learner. But he likes you to kind of slow down and teach him things slower. Rico, on the other hand, he's a slower learner, but he's very quick. So he reacts very quick. He wants you to continue moving on to that next behavior and really keep him busy and going. So I would say cheetahs probably are one of my favorites. I just really like them because they're such individuals.
All right, and we're going to take a trip to Mrs. Rimmel's class. They are joining us from Independence. I think that's in Missouri. I'll double check with them. And they're a grade 5 classroom. So let's turn their microphone on. How are we doing, grade 5s?
Good.
Am I right? Are you in Missouri?
Yep. Yes.
Perfect. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brandon, and I would like to know how many wildcats you have there.
How many wildcats we have here? So here at the Virginia Zoo, we have cheetahs, we have lions, we have 3 lions, we have a pair and a cub who's about a year old, and then we also have 3 tigers as well. And they are all males. They're actually a dad and 2 sons that were born together. They were litter mates. And so we have 2 cheetah, 3 lions, and 3 tigers.
All right, let's take a trip back to Mrs. Gross Haggerty's class and see if they have a follow-up question.
I never see it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask about it. So I say, I'm Curran.
I'm Curran. My question was, have you ever gotten bitten by one?
Hi there. No, I have not gotten bitten by a cheetah. We're very careful when we work with our cheetahs. Some people go in and interact with their cheetahs all the time. Here at the Virginia Zoo, we always have some sort of barrier between our cheetahs. So even when I'm feeding them or I'm doing a training session with them and I'm giving them treats of food, we're very careful to never get our fingers bit.
All right. Back to Surrey, British Columbia. Our grade 3s, your microphone is on.
Yay! Say your name, Moby.
Hi, my name's Sadie. How many animals do you take care of a day?
Hi, that's such a good question. So I have 16 species total. So that means I take care of 16 different types of species. So every day I could take care of cheetah, lion, rhino, giraffe, zebra. We have some Watusi cattle. We have bongo, which are a forest antelope. We have a couple different species of birds that we take care of, some hornbills, geese, a big crane species. We also take care of meerkats. If you guys have ever heard of meerkats before, they're pretty fun animals to work with. We also have a Fennec Fox, which is a little desert fox from Africa. And then we also take care of this really cool animal called a hyrax as well.
All right, we'll steal a question from online. Mr. Cameron's class from Thunder Bay, they're wondering, the 2-parter is, which large cat is the most successful predator, and do cheetahs swim?
Those are both good questions. The most successful predator, I I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I would probably say an animal like a lion would be more successful in numbers because they hunt as a group, where cheetahs are usually hunting by themselves. And the statistics show that only out of every 5 times that a cheetah goes on one of those really quick runs to try to catch their prey, they only actually catch it 1 out of every 5 times. So it's not really all that often. And the second question was, do they swim? So they can swim, but they don't swim regularly. So they don't necessarily enjoy swimming, but they can actually swim. They have the capability to swim. The same as lions. Lions are not big swimmers either. They can swim, and you'll see them once in a while swimming, but not regularly. The different ones that we have here, the tigers do swim, and those guys actually enjoy swimming, and you will see them out in the water a lot.
All right. Well, looks like our 2 hangout members have decided to come and sit together, so that's pretty cool. Let's go to Mrs. Matthews' class. Your microphone's on again.
My question is, how many different types of colors can a cheetahs come in?
How many colors can a cheetah come in? That is such a good question. So cheetahs are only pretty much in the colors that you see them in. So they have black spots and that kind of cream colored fur. And one really neat thing about cheetah is that they are actually 90% the same. So if you were to take all the coats of all the cheetah in the world, they're actually about 98% the same, and there's only about a 2% difference in their fur. So they're very, very similar looking. Even these brothers behind me, to somebody who doesn't know them, they're very hard to tell apart. They have a few spots that are slightly different from each other, and they have some colors on the end of their tail that are slightly different. But other than that, they're all very, very similar. So all cheetah look pretty much just like the ones you see behind me.
All right, great question. So I know that people can kind of look at tigers or look at jaguars and differentiate. So is there something else they use for cheetahs?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, things like tigers or jaguars, they'll look at stripe or spot pattern. But with cheetah being so similar, is there another characteristic they usually use?
That's pretty much it, honestly. There's not a lot of other things that they use because they are solitary. They're usually easier to tell apart if they're tracking cheetah in the wild or something like that. Maybe they have radio collars on them or something. You're not going to see a bunch of cheetah together. In this situation, the easiest way to tell them apart is Chester has a very distinct ring on the base of his tail, a big white ring. In Rico's is a little bit different. So usually they have some slight variation that you can tell them apart.
All right, Mr. Levine's class in Thunder Bay, your microphone is on again.
My question is, are you scared of any animals you touch?
Am I scared of any animals I touch? That's a good question. So I wouldn't use the word scared, but we're all very smart about what we do. So we're very careful. We take lots of safety precautions, and I have definitely a healthy respect for the animals that I work with. But as my job is to read their behavior and kind of be able to tell how they're feeling. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they didn't get a lot of sleep last night, those sorts of things. So we can usually read their behavior and know what they're going to do before they do it. But we're very careful. We don't ever enter the space with the cheetahs. Everything we do with them, we have some sort of barrier between us. And a lot of animals are like that. The lions are the same way. So we always have some sort of safety barrier, but we can still do everything we need to do to take care of them and do all sorts of training. So we're just very careful.
All right. And then let's go to Mrs. Rimmel's class and let them fire away.
Hi, my name is Sochi, and my question was, what is your favorite part of the day?
What is my favorite part of the day? My favorite part of the day is probably first thing in the morning. When you come into the zoo, it's still nice and quiet, and all the animals are waking up, and the sun is just coming up, and you're feeding everybody and checking on everybody from the night before. That's probably my favorite part of the day. The animals are excited to see you in the morning, and they're excited to get their breakfast. So I really enjoy that kind of quiet time in the morning. Okay, we have another question came in from online.
and they're wondering about the food for the cheetahs at the zoo. What's their diet at the zoo?
Okay, so their food here is a carnivore diet, and it's specifically made just for cheetahs. So they don't really eat as much food as a lot of people would think. Like I said, in the wild, they would eat like a rabbit, or they would catch a gazelle, something like that. So they only eat about 5 pounds of meat. We feed them raw meat diet, and that is 6 days a week. So 1 day a week, they don't eat anything at all. That's actually good for their digestive system. And that is pretty much year round. Sometimes in the winter, we'll give them a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on kind of what their needs are. We also can weigh our cheetah. So they're trained to get up onto a scale. And so we weigh them regularly as well to kind of monitor what they need.
All right, so we have a couple minutes left. So I'm going to just visit a couple more classrooms. Let's go to Mrs. Matthews' class because it looks like there's someone right front and center.
So, how do lions communicate with each other?
How do lions communicate with each other? Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Lions can actually roar, right? So they have a big booming roar that you can hear for miles and miles and miles. Our male lion here, especially in the mornings, he likes to come outside and get on top of one of his big rocks and roar so that everybody knows he's here. Cheetahs, on the other hand, don't roar. So even though they're kind of a big cat, they're technically not a big cat for a couple of reasons. And one of those reasons is that they can't roar. So you might have heard them a little bit earlier. They'll have little chirping noises that they make. And so they'll talk back and forth to each other, but they can't actually roar like a lion, or even a tiger has a big, deep roar that they can make.
All right, and we'll visit Mrs. Thiessen's classroom. Let's turn your microphone on.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and what's the difference between a leopard, a cheetah, and a jaguar?
So they're all from different areas, and they're all completely different species. So that would be like comparing your dog to your cat to a bird, right? So they're all completely different species. Even though they're all cat species, they're all very different from each other and from different parts of the world. So you would see leopards and cheetahs both in Africa and jaguars in other places.
All right, and maybe one final question from online. We talked a little bit about water, but Reggie in Thunder Bay is wondering, in the rain, do they like it or do they head for cover?
It kind of depends on if it's hot or cold out. So I would say if it's a hot day and it rains, then the cheetahs don't mind being outside. If it's a cold day and it's raining, then they don't like it as much. You might see them go under a tree, or you might see them actually go into the building or around where they have some more shelter. So it just kind of depends. If it's nice out, sometimes you'll even see them out playing in the rain if it's a nice warm day.
All right. Well, Jennifer, a big thank you for taking some time from your busy day to hang out with us today and introduce us to Rico and Chester. It was great to see them moving around, and they seemed curious and interested in what you're up to. So it was great to have that.
Curious.
All right.
Much. I really appreciate it, and I had a great time.
All right. Excellent. Well, that was a lot of fun. We look forward to our next hangout at the Virginia Zoo, which will probably happen in the new year. Last thing we'll do for today is I'll turn all the microphones on and give the classrooms a chance to get loud, say goodbye and thank you. And if they're loud enough, maybe Chester and Rico will hear it as well. So here we go. Microphones are coming on. Nice and loud, boys and girls. Excellent job. I have no doubt that they heard you. So again, Jennifer, thank you so much. Emily, thank you for helping set this up. And we look forward to our next journey to the Virginia Zoo.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.